to finish World War One now. Because, my exams are in like 3 weeks. We've got this to go through. And so while I'm telling myself it's not a lot, it's gonna be a lot to script. I guess I'll start note-taking. Now, actually, before we get started, I'm gonna round off something from the last video, actually. And that is just me listing a couple of battles that General Haig was involved with. And one of the battles is a battle that we'll look quite a good bit deeper into. So, why not do it first? The Battle of Loos in 1915. It was the first major scale battle offensive in World War One. And something that you'll see as a pretty general theme is that a lot of the British soldiers had failed to achieve their objectives and had suffered major casualties. There was the Battle of Passchendaele in 1917. This offensive happened in Belgium, and the battle was marked by, like, heavy rain and mud, which was something that was, I think, a first to see in battles. And so everyone found it difficult to move troops and supplies. And although towards the start they had seen some initial gains to Haig's plans, the British did suffer heavy losses and failed to achieve their objectives again. But, the battle that I actually researched and care about here is the Battle of the Somme. This happened in 1916. Interestingly, this battle did see some gains from Haig, because I'm pretty sure it forced the German army to, like, divert their resources away from other fronts. But this was towards the start, and the British ended up losing, and it was a mess. The Battle of the Somme were against the British and the French, being against the German Empire. It was fought along a 25-mile front in the northern western France. And this battle was pretty important, not only because it was a massive front, but because it sorta caused 1 million casualties. The fight was initiated by the British in an attempt to break through German lines and revive pressure on the French forces in Verdun. The battle began with a massive artillery bombardment of German positions, which were meant to destroy their defensive and make it easier for the Allied troops to advance. However, the bombardment did not have the desired effect, and instead, as many German soldiers were able to take the shelter. I'm pretty sure that this battle actually lasted quite a long time, and really, it's because there wasn't ever any major progress that was made within the war, or breakthrough that was achieved by any of the sides. When the Allied troops went over the top and attacked the German lines, they faced heavy machine gun fire. This battle actually utilized trench warfare, and it kind of showed how impactful war really is on people. Although there were so many losses, I guess the Germans did divert their resources away from the French in Verdun, and it set the stage for later Allied victories on the Western Front. The Gallipoli Campaign was a World War I military campaign that took place in 1915. It was an attempt by the Allied powers, mainly the British and the French, to open up a new front by capturing the Gallipoli in Turkey, which was controlled by the Ottoman Empire. And I guess because I don't know what that is, I'll tell you about that. The Ottoman Empire was a large and powerful state that existed from the 14th to the early 20th century. It controlled territories in Europe, Asia, and Africa, including parts of Southeast Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. So, the Ottoman Empire was... And just so you know, the Ottoman Empire was actually known mostly for its military advantages or strengths. The campaign was launched with a naval attack guarding the Ottoman fronts, but it actually failed to clear the way for the Allied ships. The troops then landed on the shores of the Gallipoli, but they faced strong resistance from the Ottoman defenses. It was unsuccessful. All it did was result in the loss of many soldiers, tens of thousands, and it just showed of poor planning and how there was no coordination or good communication between the naval and the ground forces. The naval bombardment was not sufficient enough to clear the way for the landings, and the troops were not adequately supplied for reinforcements. The naval bombardment was not sufficient enough to clear the way for landings, and the troops were just not adequately supplied or reinforced well. Something that made this difficult, but I guess was quite out of their control, was what the terrain and what the weather was like. It was steep and rugged, and it made it difficult for troops to advance. The weather was really hot and dry, which led to dehydration and a lot of disease. And I don't think there was ever the, oh, I didn't realize this, when it came to knowing that the Ottoman defenses were really good. They were well prepared and had strong defensive positions. They had dug in on the high ground, which gave them a significant advantage, and they were well equipped with artillery, machine guns, and other more modern technology at the time. We're nearing the end. Stick with me, Shalom. The 100-Day Offensive. Okay. This was a series of Ally offences during the final phase of World War I, and it lasted till November of 1918. The offensive was launched by the Allied forces, primarily the British, French, and Americans, with the goal of breaking through German lines and pushing towards Germany. It lasted 100 days and was based on a mix of coordinated attacks, using new tactics and technology which allowed the Allies to break through the German defences. The Allied forces used tanks, aircrafts, and machine guns to great effect, and they were able to achieve significant gains through a relatively short period of time. Some of the battles that happened during the 100-Day Offensive were... What was that? What was that? Better not have crawled over the top of my PC. Ah! There's a spider on there, dude. It is 8 PM. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to look or act like I care. Okay, some of the battles during the 100-Day Offensive included the Battle of Amiens, the Battle of the Heisenberg Line, and the Mizargoni Offensive. That was right. It was basically a major turning point in the war, and it marked the end of trench warfare, the beginning of a new era, and this era being mobile warfare. It was a big W for the Allies, and it helped to shape the course of the post-war world. I don't really know where to go when it comes to effects of World War I. Am I talking about what happened in the world of politics? Am I talking what happened in terms of the economy? I mean, if we talk about stuff like fascism and World War II, World War I did very much contribute to those things. The Treaty of Versailles became a thing. The economic and political instability in Europe after the war contributed to the rise of fascism and the outbreak of World War II just a couple of decades later. The war definitely meant that there was quite the advance or the progress made when we talk about technology improving. I mean, think about it. Through the war, we got like ships, we got tanks, we got air fights with like planes, and we of course got like chemical warfare. Because of the war, the Ottoman Empire and the Austro-Hungarian Empire, those had fallen. And something that plays a big role in World War II is the fact that communism was a big theme in Russia because of the war. So we can very much say that World War I had quite long-lasting and significant effects on the world in general after the war.